Welcome everyone. I think we currently have more than 50 people in the room right now. So again, thank you for your time and your interest in PolyU and our design program. My name is Mary and I'm from the Global Engagement Office here. Today, let me share the agenda with you. So we'll start the session by a presentation by Professor Stefan from the School of Design to tell you more about their program and also give you some tips in creating a successful design portfolio. Then we'll have a student sharing from our current international student, Joanne. So Joanne is actually currently working off campus at the moment, but she will be joining us during the Q&A session. So we'll have a recording of her sharing, and be sure to save your question for Joanne after our presentation. Afterwards, I will give you some basic information about admissions, including scholarship, application timeline, admission requirement, etc. And at the end, we'll have a Q&A session. So for all your questions about our program, about admission, please make sure to leave that in the Q&A or the checkbox. We'll try to answer as many as possible. So without further ado, I will pass the time to Professor Stefan to share more about their program. Thank you, Stefan.
Thank you. Thank you, Marie, for the introduction. My name is Stefan Sonntag. I am from the Polytechnic University, from the School of Design here, and my office is actually in this lovely building that you perhaps may have seen if you have been to our website already. And I am not only in charge of internationalization, but also I run a program in advertising design, but more on this in a minute. So I share my presentation with you right now. Okay, hang on, give me a second. Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are right now. Dear viewers, this is our lovely building, the PolyU Design. So let's talk, before we talk about the portfolio and perhaps when I give you some advice on how to put a portfolio together, let's talk about how we actually structured in the School of Design here. So if you would enter us in year one, you would come into a foundation year where we basically give you the design fundamentals. That is not specifically based on a particular design direction that you may have in mind or may not have in mind yet. So that's why we give the students the opportunity to learn a broad spectrum of all common basics in design in general. So once you finish year one, then you would have to make a decision in what kind of direction you perhaps would like to take in your life. We have so-called design clusters from communication design, environmental design, product experience design, and last but not least, at the bottom, service design. I'm going to talk more about these clusters in a minute, actually. So this is now year two. Then in year two, you have to make another decision. You have to specify a specific specialism that you would like to take later on. We have in total 9 BA programs that we run, this running from advertising design, information design, media design, and then in the next cluster is environmental and interior design. The third cluster is interaction design and product design. And the fourth cluster contains service and social design. Again, more on this in just a minute. Communication design. This is perhaps something that comes easy to you because you're constantly bombarded with visual stimulus material when you walk through the cities and when you live your life. So this is what is in our communication design cluster. There you can learn about animation, branding, copywriting, digital advertising, of course. There we do campaigns for the market, but also for governmental organizations. We do events, promotion. We have a little bit of marketing for you to learn here, but also skill sets like photography or storytelling, typography, and perhaps even as much as wayfinding systems. So this is classically where filmmaking, where 2D media is based, for example. Then in the environment and interior design cluster, that's where we're moving into 3D environment. So for example, commercial spaces, environmental design, but also environmentally graphics, exhibition, housing, institutional spaces, landscaping is part of this as well. But also public spaces. Yes, you know, you walk around the city and every public space from every bus stop to every building that needs to be designed both on the outside and the inside. So it's bordering a little bit what architecture does as well, but we also are basically concerned by how does the human being, how does the space around the human being can be designed in the best possible way. We do a lot of recreational spaces, but we also reach out to the public and we reach out to societies as well. That's something that borders also another cluster that comes in at the end. But before I talk about this, there is our third cluster, which is product experience design. Again, this is based on 3D models or 3D product design that you may know. Just look around yourself. There are many products that have been designed by designers. You may ask yourself, are these actually really good products or perhaps not? Can I maybe improve how this product can work within my life or other people's lives? But we're also bordering here two-dimensional products, as in UX, UI design as well. How do we actually handle what's happening on our screens nowadays? So artificial intelligence plays a big part in here as well. Cultural appreciation, digital entertainment, all of this plays a big part here in our products design experience cluster. Our last cluster, this is our news, because we have seen that there is a change in societies as well, that we need to design not only physical products, but also services, financial services, for example, or governmental services. They all need to be in a way designed because you know how frustrating it is when you get onto a phone and you can't really get a person at the phone anymore. So we like to help making these services more humane, actually. Experience design, design research, consumer behavior, all of these parts sits within the service design cluster. We look very much at how communities and how societies function here as well. So as you can see in the samples that are put out here, community work is a big part in this particular cluster. Good. This is a rough overview of what we have to offer. When it comes to the teaching and learning activities that you will experience here, we have, of course, a very, very rich studio life where students have the ability and the possibility to experiment with the projects that they're working on. Interactive critiques are given by staff, by colleagues that sit with you within the classrooms. Individual practice and also teamwork is given. We focus very much on both, that you develop as a personal, as an individual student, but also that the teamwork has become more and more important. And there will be a lot of teamwork involved when you do decide to come and study with us. We, of course, have also traditional formats like lectures and seminars and workshops, but we also now venture out into visits and study trips as well. We believe it's important that you don't just sit all the time in the classroom in our school. We believe that there is also a much bigger classroom out there, and that is the world that you need to explore and that you need to experience as well. So internships, of course, is something that is compulsory to our students now in year three. Between year three and year four, you will have to spend 8 weeks in doing an internship with either local or international firms. But we also believe in service learning. It's important for us. We have to bring our design capabilities to the societies. And as such, this is something like service learning explores in detail. Cooperative projects where we line up with industry partners and we bring real clients and real projects into the school so that you get a hands-on experience with actually real clients. So it's not just theory, it's also the practical applications of this. So, of course, once you go through our system and after 4 years you graduate, you can see that we have lots and lots of career prospects actually for our students. Many companies, I'm not going through all of them right now, but our students are very, very highly competitive and find always very great jobs in the industry. But if you do decide not to go straight into the industry, into the workforce, if you decide to go on a postgraduate path for your life, we also have great connections to top design schools in the world. And here just a sample of a few of these partners that we have. So, but you're not only here to listen, to listen to me to talk about the school, but you also hear about how can I actually improve, or how can I make a portfolio, and how can I perhaps improve it if I do have a portfolio already with me. Okay, here's the question, portfolio matters? Yes, it does, because it's our first glimpse to basically see who you are as a prospective client, as a prospective student. So the timeline is, of course, very important to you. When we talk about this, you see that we split it into early round and main round application. Just briefly, I talk about this, not going too much into details in here, but we highlighted at the bottom the part that's important for you, because we will require an online portfolio from you. And the submission deadlines, very, very important. So please mark this down. We have the early round by mid-November, and we have the main round by mid-February. Then what's going to happen? We're going to look at your portfolio here and review them. And if we do find that you could be potentially a good student for us, then we would invite you for an interview. The interview rounds would be again for the early session in November to December, but for the main session from February to April. So that's where the interviews will be conducted if you would be invited for an interview. Good. We can talk about this perhaps a little bit later if you have questions and details on this. Good. Um, you may ask yourself, what do you want to see in a portfolio? Basically, in short, the portfolio is all about you. But of course, there has to be some work in the portfolio. So we are basically looking at four pillars here. Your skills. We are a design school, and art and design go hand in hand. So yes, we are looking at, are you skillful? Do you have any talent that you have already showcased in your, or can you showcase in your portfolio that you have? Can you draw? Can you take photographs? Yes, we are looking at this, but if you're not, don't worry. I come to a second part on this in a minute. So, of course, we are very much interested in your thinking part as well. You're coming to university. We need to do the thinking before we do the doing. So the critical thinking is really important. But of course, in design, nothing goes without passion. So you're gonna have to be passionate about your future career. Whatever design direction it is you want to take, you're gonna have to showcase to us in your portfolio that you're passionate about it. And last but not least, we like to have a student body here that prides itself for being really well working as teams as well. So your character, your personality, that should also shine through your portfolio. Next step is, what should you actually put into the portfolio? And we are looking for the following things. Of course, personal projects. We are aware that depending on what kind of school you come from, you may or may not have some school-based work assignments or some private, some personal projects already. This is stuff you can put into your portfolio, of course, already. So you can put your personal projects, of course, on top of the school assignments if you have some school assignments. Yep. But don't forget to document your process. We are not just interested in the final project. We look at the final project, that's important, but we also really like to see, how did you get to this point? What was your thinking behind it? What's the process, the design process? How many sketches did you make? How did you get from that very, very first thought that you had to the final project? And that's equally important to us. So please do not forget your documentation of your processes. Of course, creativity and authenticity is very, very important. We like to be original. Do not copy and paste, but we do need to see your creative intention. What is it that you wanted to express with this particular work that you put in your portfolio? That's really, really important. We need to see this. So experimentation and innovation, these are very, very core, but also originality and personality. That's really, really important that this comes through in your portfolio. So it's all about you, but it's how you display your creativity in the portfolio. It's not just one way of going it. There's no hard and fast rules to this. This is not about cookie cutter approach that everybody and every portfolio should look the same. It has to be about your personality as well. And how do you bring creativity onto a piece of paper or into a piece of film or into any other media format? Curiosity and personal approach is exactly what I meant with this. How do you do it in your specific way? And how do you express yourself in this? Very, very important. If you're not curious about how the world works, how you can improve the world through design, then perhaps design is not the right direction for you. But if you are curious about these things, if you want to know everything about the world, everything about people and societies, and if you like to express your thoughts and your thinking behind it, then you're perhaps right for the School of Design. So, I mentioned before that you may be asking yourself, oh, I haven't really got a portfolio, and in my school, I didn't do any projects yet. Don't worry, there's still time to make your own portfolio if you haven't got one yet. But if you have been to a school where you perhaps had some visual arts projects or design and technology projects, that's of course great. So you can build on this. We give you two options in a way, and they're just some two ways of looking at your portfolio. We call it creative portfolio and makeup portfolio. Let me get into the details a little bit further here. So in a creative portfolio, we would expect work that is perhaps coming from art and design related background. So if your school has already provided this, where you have perhaps a basic understanding of what design is or what design direction you want to take. If you have studied related subjects or electives, perhaps. So this is where this kind of portfolio comes in really, really handy for you. So anything that you have perhaps studied in your school life already, that's what you should be putting in here. In the maker portfolio, that's where we basically give the chance to the students who didn't have the chance to learn and study something art related or design related before. So if you don't have that kind of background, don't worry. But if you're interested in studying design, we give you some tips in a minute how to put a portfolio together if that's something you haven't had a chance to study yet. So in the creative portfolio, we actually we listened a couple of bullet points here. That's basically where you can put either 2D works, 3D work, or multimedia. If you have multimedia projects like videos or websites, for example, please put a QR code or a link in your portfolio so we can easily access them. Here are a couple of tips that we can give you how to make this creative portfolio. In total, there are 8. Some of them I've mentioned before already. Now, of course, bear in mind bear in mind your audience. Yeah, we look at hundreds and hundreds of portfolios. So I know creativity is sometimes chaos, but please try to organize your portfolio in a way and structure it in a way so that whoever's going to look at it will find his or her way through your portfolio in an organized manner. Then, of course, showcase clearly if you have some skills already. If you can draw, put some drawings in there. If you think you're good with photography, put some photographs in there. We also like to see different approaches to design. So not just a whole portfolio full of cat pictures. Don't do this. So please have variations in this in your portfolio. And then again, I mentioned before, please tell us how did you get to the end result? So state your work. So write down a quick description of why did you do the work in a specific way? What is it that you wanted to tell us? What's the message of the work? Focus, of course, something I mentioned before. Please keep a clear focus on how much work and how would you like to see yourself presented in this portfolio, and diversify. Yeah, 2D, 3D, 4D, 4D, all of this goes. All of this work can be interesting for us to look at. So don't worry, don't limit yourself in this case here. Again, I mentioned QR codes. Please allow us to have easy access to this. Think about us. As I said, we were going to watch hundreds of these portfolios. So think about your audience. Yeah. And if you do have a visual diary, excellent. If you haven't got one yet, don't worry, you can still make one. But we would highly recommend to do this. I talk about this in just a second here. What is a visual diary? How could it work? I give you some samples here. It's basically how you document in a very different visual way the process of your work. Just please look at the samples that we highlight here. There is not just one way or one layout of doing it. It entirely depends on how you see your visuals coming together and how you put it together in a collage format. So that's totally up to you, but we really like to see, again, we really like to see the process of how you develop creative ideas. So that was a creative portfolio. I mentioned the makeup portfolio again. Here are a couple of bullet points to help you with it. So any kind of work that you have or that you like to create right now, you can put in your portfolio. Yeah, you can put research material in there. You can do scripts in there, storytelling, creative or coding, prototyping, anything that you would like to, that you haven't got yet, you can still create and put it into the portfolio. Now, this, of course, is more meant if you're coming from a STEAM background. So if you haven't had the chance yet to visit the the STEM, so if you haven't been in STEAM yet, so if you haven't got the A in there, the art in there. So we totally understand this, and we still believe that if you feel like that you are a creative person and that you would like to apply at the PolyU, School of Design, that you should have the chance to put a portfolio together and do so. Mm. Okay. For example, in your maker portfolio, here's something that somebody did in school as well. If you, for example, do some experiments in school and that lead to a creative outcome, you can put it in there. So here's something that somebody did with coffee grind, for example. Yeah, and I'm sure you have some form of experimentation that you have done in secondary school. This is where you put it into your portfolio here. And it can be anything. So don't copy what I'm just showing you there right now. Please put your own projects in there. Again, scientific explorations, any kind of experiments that you have done that could lead to a creative, that does have a creative outcome, please put them in here. Or if you have done some projects that are uh, where the local societies are involved in it. For example, here is something that deals with bamboo. And this could be very interesting for us to see that you are actually aware of societal issues that we're trying to address in a cultural context as well. Something that works with bins, for example, was done by one student here. So again, this is all the projects that deals with the engagement with the community and or perhaps address societal challenges as well. Yeah, again, these are no limitations. These are just a few examples here. So here, a few more examples. Anything that you do with regards to crafts or hobbies that you have, creative hobbies that, yes, all of this you can put in here. Now, of course, we like, again, what I said before in the creative portfolio, please be systematic how you record your work in the portfolio. Please be well organized. So we need to find our way through your portfolio. Use visual tools that guides us when we look at the portfolio through the work that you have done, and do some, categorize and analyze your work as well. This is really important for us that we actually can see from the portfolio what kind of work you have done. Now, last but not least, a couple of do's and don'ts. Please be organized. So the do's on the left here. We would like to see your thinking. Please record in written or verbally on a video if you want to. Your thinking. Stay focused on what is it that you want to achieve and how would you like to represent yourself in your portfolio, and respect your work. We respect your work, so you should respect your work too. Yeah, very important for us. So, and then of course, wherever there are do's, there are also don'ts. don't rush your work. Don't just pile it all up there and say, oh, I need to put more and more and more and more and more into this. No, that's not what we want to see because we want to see on the do's a organized, a structured portfolio. Please have proper explanation to it. Yeah, don't just hand it some work and let people guess what it may be. No, please explain what it is. Don't stuff everything that you have maybe from kindergarten in your portfolio. This is university life that's waiting for you. And um, reference pictures, this is something that has come up recently. A reference picture is just something you find on the internet. It's not created by you. Please put original work in there, work that you have created. At the end, there's some admission tips here. Please take in this QR codes if you want to have more detailed guidelines to this. I have a very limited time today to talk to you. There's also some videos for you at the bottom, YouTube, and I just go now to the last. Some tips on how to survive Hong Kong, and there's also some student work on the last QR code here. And as such, some more information about our program and scholarships as well. But I believe Marie will talk about scholarships in a minute. I hope I didn't overrun too much.
No, no, no.
So I hope I made it kind of clearer how to put a portfolio together. I know that's not very much in detail. Bottom line, to summarize, please just be yourself. We need to see the work that you have created or will create right now in order to make a portfolio. And also we need to see who are you as a person. That's really, really important. So your personality should come through. Thank you very much for your attention. And I believe we have a student sharing now as well. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much,
Hope to
Stefan.
see
I
you
think
soon here,
that was
first your portfolio, but then I see you soon here at the School of Design.
Thank you, Stefan. That was really helpful. And I think for our audience today, they can definitely see the difference between a creative portfolio and also a makeup portfolio. Now, I'm going to play a recording by our current student, Joanne, who did a sharing about her journey to the School of Design.
In this session, I will be talking about my journey to PolyU School of Design. But before we begin, let me introduce myself. Hi, my name is Joanne Harrison Lee, or Joanne for short. I'm currently a year 2 student majoring in the Communication Design cluster, and I come from Indonesia. And I want to talk mostly about my portfolio preparation when I applied to PolyU School of Design. So I applied to PolyU around 2 years ago, which was 2023, and I applied at mid-September, which considers as the early round for PolyU. And during October, I used a whole month to prepare not only my personal statement, but also my portfolio to get into School of Design. And for the preparations, I did three major things. Number one would be compiling my works into one folder in order to make sure that I have everything in one place. It's more organized. It helped me to be more efficient when making my portfolio, so I'm not all over the place. And the second one was deciding the overall theme of the portfolio, like how I wanted to express my vibe from through the portfolio, whether I want it to be minimalistic or maybe quirky. Sometimes it's modern and so on. Another thing I did was I looked up other designers' portfolio online. It's for inspiration and reference. The platforms I used was Behance and Pinterest. The works I included in my portfolio were all the works that reflects my scope of interest and capabilities. It includes school organization projects, passion projects, as well as some mixed media. And I try to include relevant works, which are like my interest, and possibly also what stream I'm leaning into. Like my my target was communication design, so I include more works that are more related to communication design. And I also curate works that I'm proud to show to the reviewers as well. So, how did I present my works in the portfolio? For the structure itself, I try to include at least four important things on every artworks, which are title, the artwork itself, description, the details of the artwork, like the medium, the size, and so on. I wanted to have my portfolio layout to be readable, and consistent fonts are also really important for me. So I try to make sure that the titles I use, the fonts for the titles, the fonts for the body, and maybe small details, it's consistent throughout the portfolio. And I stated my works like the explanations, the rationale, and the process behind it, the meaning, just more clarity for each works. And for some works that has external links sources, I include QR code for easier access where you can just scan the QR. So next up would be the process. So another thing that's important in portfolios that I see online that lots of people include are process, your thoughts and rationale, because I think a lot of people would like to know more about why I decided to do this, what made me choose to use this approach instead of that approach, and it just helps the people or the reviewer have more connection, like a sense of connection through your works, and like maybe some backstory behind it. And this is why documenting everything is important. It doesn't have to always be just the project itself. It can also be other stuff, external stuff that's still related to the project. And this is also related to how you can also present your visual diary, maybe if you have. But when I made this portfolio, I haven't really made a visual diary before, but now I really think that having a visual diary is very important in documenting your work and process. I also group similar works. So, for example, illustrations, I group them into one section in my portfolio. So, some tips that I learned when making this portfolio and maybe looking back now would be don't wait for perfect to start. Just start with something and make it perfect later. So one of the reasons why it took me a month to make the portfolio, which by the way varies between people, it could take you maybe just a week, 2 weeks, or it could take you longer. But personally for me, it's because I procrastinated in starting the portfolio. I kept thinking about maybe I should start a new project first, then I should make the portfolio, etc. But a thing that I um, thought during the making of my portfolio was I could have just saved more time in making it and then refining it later instead of like waiting for the perfect moment to start my portfolio. And it also applies to some other design aspects or when you start a new project or maybe illustration. So don't procrastinate. And another thing is show who you are because portfolio, other than showing just your works, they want, I think everyone gets to know you better as a designer, as a person yourself is through your portfolio, like your interest or how you are as a person. So show who you are, express yourself, be free because you have the freedom in your portfolio. Document everything, as previously mentioned before, it's really important to document everything, whether it's some notes you took or maybe a random daily life object that inspired you throughout the process. Everything. Just document. Oh, this also leads to showing the process in the portfolio, which helps the reader or the reviewer be more connected to your works, whether it's through your documents or just your train of thoughts. Now, for the fun part would be my life after I got accepted to Poly, which is my uni life. And as you can see from all these pictures, um, if you see on the left, I just wanted to put this in. So this is a service learning that trip that I took to Cambodia where I teach English to students in elementary. And I took this right after I started, which is like year one, maybe semester two. And this was like one of the most memorable experience I had so far because I learned a lot and I gained a lot of friends and knowledge and cultural experience. And I also won a photography competition, which was really memorable as well. Other than that, I also did some student sharing to my home country. I also had lots of events with my Indonesian Student Association at PolyU, where we often do lots of events like hiking, barbecue, and also we have like our annual drama theater. And this picture down here is just us preparing for the drama props. And the other half on the right side is me throughout the semester. So throughout the semester, I had lots of fun doing projects because not only do I do the projects in my design studio here, which you can see on the right top corner, the studio looks messy, which is really normal for us design students, especially in week 7, week 8, and it's very common. Also, for some projects, me and my group mates, we did site surveys where one of my projects revolved around the Ping An Bao, which came from the Chang Chao Island. So me and my group mates decided to go to Chang Chao for this on-site survey and research. It was really fun because not only we are doing our design project, but it's also a cultural adventure for us. We also did other projects like making a chair, which is a unique experience. Um, I'm going to talk about more about my projects here. So my uni projects, these are some of them, but um, throughout my first year, foundation year, I experienced lots of various media which initially I thought I would just be exploring one, but turns out I tried out new things that I've never tried before, like making my own stop motion animation from clay, also making 3D art forms, expressing through paper, and also we also have like branding for like the cultural event, like the Chang Chao Ping An Bao, the one previously and also like result like how we can use design to fix and how we can use design to improve an ongoing issue in society. And this was my foundation year portfolio that I made in order to go to my preferred cluster, which is communication design. And it consisted of my uni projects as well as passion projects. Overall, I'm quite satisfied with the portfolio I created here because I think I improved quite a lot compared to the previous one in terms of the portfolio content itself, where I had more um, process behind it, like data, research, rationale, etc. And I also think that the alignment and maybe everything in general is just better in my opinion. Although for this portfolio, the approach I took was for each project, the portfolio's design itself follows the vibe of the project. But all in all, I'm quite satisfied with this portfolio. Also, throughout my first year in PolyU School of Design, I actually I'm actually really glad that the system is where everyone tries a lot of different things in the first year because I believe it truly helped me in deciding which area do I prefer more or I'm good at. And I think it's not limit, and I think it helps me to not only have a limited scope, but rather also try other streams and which I probably would never try before. And surprisingly, some of them I actually enjoyed making the projects. So I think it's really advantageous for this foundation year to try out lots of things. Well, that is all about my journey to PolyU School of Design and my journey during School of Design. So so thank you so much for listening and I hope to see you at PolyU.
Okay, so just to mention again, Joanne is actually joining us here live during the Q&A session. So if you do have any question for our student, please leave them in the Q&A box. And I would give a very brief presentation right now about the admission detail and of course scholarship requirements as such. So basically, when you apply to PolyU, you apply for our e-admission portal, and we'll look at a few things. So your school performance, the curriculum that you're currently doing. We also have an English requirement because we are an English teaching university, so all programs will be taught in English. Some program, like design right here, will require a portfolio. So the portfolio should be ready by the time you submit your application, and they will have a separate link for you to upload that portfolio separately. There's also a very detailed guideline online to tell you about the submission process and arrangement. So just some of the major curriculum that PolyU accepts. We do accept a long list of international curriculum, but also national curriculum. So make sure to check online the slides, and also the QR code that was shared earlier by the School of Design will be sent to you after this session, including a recording of this session, so you can follow up and read more later on. For English requirement, we accept IELTS, TOEFL, and if you're doing IB, A-level, or some other curriculums, for example, like the SAT or like CBSE in India, we do accept their English results as our one of our English requirements. So again, please check before you submit your application. If you don't have your final grades by the time you apply, that's fine. You can provide those afterwards, but you do have to indicate that you'll be taking those examination or like qualification and also give us like an expected date of exam release date. So a quick overview of the tuition fee for the upcoming academic year. But most importantly is the scholarship opportunities. So in PolyU, we do offer different types of scholarship. The most generous and common one will be the academic entry scholarship. So for that one, you don't need to apply for it. We automatically give out conditional offer to shortlisted students. We will list out all the potential scholarship amount and the grade needed for those academic scholarship. For the non-academic entry scholarship, we have something called STARS. So that one here do require extra application material. So if you have outstanding achievement in like a national, international, or regional level in sports, art and culture, leadership and community services, or STEM areas, you can consider applying for the STAR scholarship. So for both the academic entry scholarship and the STAR scholarship, the tiers are quite similar. So it ranges from a half tuition fee waiver up to a full tuition fee waiver, including living allowance. So for the academic academic scholarship, as I mentioned just now, it would be listed out on your conditional offer. But for the STAR scholarship, the result will take a longer time to release. So most cases you will need to sit through an interview for the STAR scholarship, and they will let the awardees know in a later date. If you're from, a nationality that is underrepresented on campus, we also have a diversity scholarship, which is called the Cultural Ambassador Scholarship, that is also automatically given, so you don't need to apply for it. Different departments, school faculties might have top-up scholarship as well for outstanding non-local students, but bear in mind, admission and entry scholarships, they are all on rolling basis. So obviously, if you apply by the early round, that's great. That means you might get an offer sooner and with the scholarship. If not, definitely try to apply by the main round deadline, which I'll share more details in a minute. So here is just a slides of the kind of non-local competition or achievements that our STARS awardees, so the non-academic scholarship awardees, have attended or participated before. The world is big. So, different is a very holistic and individual assessment when it comes to the STAR scholarship. So make sure to upload all the documents that you have if you're planning to apply for STAR scholarship, and submit that all of those documents by the time you apply. So you can't provide extra documents afterward. You have to make sure everything is attached to your application by the time you submit your admission applications. So here's my final slides, I believe. So the timeline is very straightforward. The early round has passed, but we do have a main round on the 5th of February. I do encourage you to apply by the main round deadline, because usually places and scholarship opportunities will be more limited after the main round deadline, although we do have an extended round till May. But make sure to apply by 5th of February. That is also the STARS application deadline. So again, the STARS application and your admission application should be submitted in one go. You can't separate them. It has to be submitted at the same time. The online portal is very straightforward. You get to choose a maximum of 2 programs. We only validate your application after you settle the application fee, which is about $64. So we issue conditional offer. The details of scholarship will be clearly listed on the offer letter. We have our contact info here as well, but you have our email address because it's the same one that sent out this invitation to you just now. So I will stop now and move on to Q&A, just so that we can answer as many questions as possible. And I see we do have some questions already in the Q&A and also a chat box. So I'm just going to dive right in because we have Joanne here as well. I think this question is more likely for Joanne, but Stefan, make sure you can, add on your view as well. So a student asks, what app or platform should they use to create their portfolio in? What kind of app or platform maybe did you use when you applied to PolyU?
Hi. Okay, thank you for the question. So for the app or platform, it honestly depends on which platform you normally use or are comfortable with. But personally, for me, I kind of switch between platforms when I work, but mainly I put all my works into Canva to make the portfolio. But for the works itself, I use some Photoshop as well as Adobe Illustrator. And I heard that some of my friends also use Figma. So you can put that into consideration if you use Figma.
Great, thank you. And
May I
Stefan?
add to this?
Yes, please.
This is it's a tricky question to answer, because we do understand that with more apps coming onto the markets, the apps are getting a lot better to help you with creating something. And Joanne, thank you for mentioning Figma and Canva. They are very, very good apps, but they also tend to make everyone a designer. So because they have a lot of templates available nowadays that helps you to create a portfolio. But I talked about reference pictures earlier. It's the same. If you take a template from somewhere, wherever it is, whatever platform it is, that means it's actually not your design anymore. And as such, it helps you to create, a visual identity of yourself, that perhaps is not really you. So if you ask me, if you ask me from, and I'm not saying this because it's an old and established platform. If you do a PowerPoint presentation and make that look really good, really good work, then I know you've done it by yourself. So, yes, you can use these platforms, but please stay away from saying, "Oh, well, all these templates here, fantastic. Let's pick the best template." The reason why I'm saying this, we also use these templates. We also know those templates. So, and if we have a feeling somehow that the portfolio that we're looking at, that we're reviewing, is either heavily supported by some of these apps or even nowadays, of course, by AI. That's another topic that perhaps comes up in one of the questions. I don't know. Try to stay away from it because we know this as well. We are the experts in this. So if you want to give us your impression of who you are as a person, do as little support that's been designed by somebody out there as possible. Now, Joanne, what do you think? To be original, you are an original. Be an original. You are yourself. Be yourself. Yeah, Joanne, I know everybody's using this, and I go through presentations. All my students present and say that's not your template. It's actually a very bad template. Don't do this. Try not to be tempted to use the templates.
So a little bit. So for me, when I use Canva, guys, I don't use templates, of course. I personally just use a blank presentation and I just input my designs there because I think for well, Canva itself, the interface is just easier to manage, especially works that has multiple slides. But if you prefer another alternative, usually you can use Adobe Illustrator where one file can has many artboards. So yeah. Thank you, Stefan.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And there's actually another follow-up questions about reference photos. So one student asked about how high for the don't session, it's set not to include many reference photo. However, in my design process, I personally take a lot of photos for reference and research. So should I include these photo in my portfolio?
If you've taken the pictures, then they're yours. That it's part of your design research. You may reference to something. I think the word reference pictures here was meant to be, here is my description of my creative work, and here's something that I pulled together from existing artists or existing designers. So that meaning there is a description of something and there's just a reference picture. So there is no original design thinking or design output from you as a student. If you've taken it, you own it, it's yours, you can put it in.
We have a similar question, but is about PolyU's view on student using AI in their portfolio. So that's a fine line. Do we forbid them for using AI at all, or is depends on how they use it?
No, Joanne is probably very quiet now because no, let's face it, everybody's using it. And there is no way around it. So that genie is out of the bottle and we're not going to get it back into the bottle. So, and we may as well embrace it. But the topic on AI, you have to be careful because there's something more than just, oh, I just you just type in a prompt and there's the image that I wish to create because it's very likely not the image that was in your mind that you wanted to create. AI gives you something beautiful. Yes, it is beautiful, but is it also meaningful? So does the image or the film that you create actually work with the concept that you've written beforehand, the thoughts and the thinking that you put down in words beforehand? So if it is just a beautiful image, then everybody can do this, and as such, it loses its value. If it just turns into a postcard picture or something, like wallpaper that's just decorative, that doesn't have a message, a meaning, a communication point of view in it, then it's just meaningless. So try to express your thoughts first, and then you can use AI, but I promise you, you're going to spend a lot of time to create the images that you actually want to create. One point I need to make here on AI is actually that creativity is, of course, it's a process, but the decision-making process of which of the images that Midjourney provides me when I type in a prompt, that I choose. So it's also that creative decision making that's really, really important, because AI will create a lovely, beautiful picture, but it will not make a decision of what's actually the really right picture that you want for your project. So, Joanne, maybe a quick word from you on the use of AI.
Well, yeah, thank you, Stefan. So for regarding the use of AI in PolyU, we actually have an AI in design class itself, where not only it teaches us how to use different kinds of AI tools and how they can help us in our design, but also how we can use it properly, and especially how we can cite these AI tools in our works to make sure it's ethically used and doesn't um it
Doesn't
doesn't
give a
break
wrong
rules
impression that you
regarding the
created
usage
this.
of
Yes.
AI. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, the ethical aspect is, of course, important, because bear in mind, every time you prompt something, it is not created by you. And that's as simple as it is. Now, we can argue what is actually original work, because at some point the image or the combination of images or the combination of words that the AI spits out was created by someone somewhere. True, but certainly not by you. And we look at portfolios because we like to see who you are as a person. So we're changing a lot to verbal presentations, that the students is in a conversation with us about how he or she feels about something, what's the thinking process. So because we know that with AI, we can't not have it. We cannot say, oh, don't use AI. This is because it would be ridiculous. Because our industries, our creative industries are also using it. Yeah, so that's something we have to embrace. But also, as Joanne was saying, please point out where and how you have used AI in the creation process of your project. Yeah, please mark it.
Thank you so much. So there's a question also about the portfolio. Students are, suggested to show multiple, what we require to show multiple artwork or projects that they're working for. A student asked, do they have to show the process of each of those artwork in the portfolio or just certain ones?
The best ones. Just pick and choose. I just talked about creative decision making and critical thinking. So if you have in your school done 12 pieces of art, don't have 12 in there. Just put, maybe you have to ask yourself, which is the one that I'm really proud of? Where do I think my creativity and my passion for design comes out strongly? Because if you do 12 pieces, I guarantee you that not all 12 of them are of the same quality. It's just the nature of the creative process. And that's why and Joanne would say this, well, you produce a lot of projects until you come to the project that at the end you say, yeah, that's the one I wanted to create. And that's my final project then. So, and don't be concerned by that, design is a journey, it's a process. So you start with one, and at the end you end up with 12 or 15 or whatever, and not all of them have all of the same quality. The real tricky part is to decide which one shall I put in and which one shall I not put in. Um, in case if you're in doubt, put the one in that represents you, where you believe in that this is the best work for you, and not just what we want to see necessarily. We want to see who you are.
The same student asked a question about mural design. So I believe that's a painting on the wall. They asked, should they include it, even though it was a collaborative effort between them? Yeah.
Yes, teamwork and collaborative efforts are, of course, a special case in a way. The answer, because I don't know the students, I don't know the rest of his or her portfolio. The short answer would be yes. You can document it by, yes, mural is, of course, a wall painting, so it can be done by photograph. Uh, can't put the wall in the portfolio. So, and then highlight which part of the process, which part of the work is your work. We are not against teamwork. Actually, the opposite, as you can see from my previous slides, that we highly encourage teamwork because you later need it in, in the industry, in the workforce as well. You need to be able to collaborate. You're not a lonesome wolf who fights for his or herself here. You need to be able to collaborate, which is another skill set, which is in itself to work with people that are not necessarily your friends. So please highlight which part you have done.
We'll take a few more questions because we are overrun a little bit, but there are a few more questions that I think most students will be interested in. So a student asked that they have seen a lot of creative portfolios made on websites. Is this a recommended way to present your portfolio, or should we stick to a presentation?
Either way,
Great.
fine. Whatever floats your boat, however you work best. If you can do, I mean, again, it's so easy nowadays as well to do a website. Just stay clear of preset templates then. So, but yes, you can do your, if a student comes to us who has his or her own website, great. So, sure, can.
And so another student asks, I'm trying to find something that is more relevant to everyone. But one student asks, when it comes to portfolio, does PolyU examine school sketchbooks as portfolio, including personal portfolio and animation portfolio with sketches showcasing your drawing process? I think Stefan covered it in the presentation as well. So it's basically anything
Yes.
that kind of showcase your skills and passion, whether it's the school projects or your personal projects or your hobbies. Is that correct? Okay,
Correct.
great. Maybe one last question. There's actually quite a lot of questions, but most of them are okay. I think the most common question that I get is how many pages should I make for a portfolio? So I guess it's including the size or like the pieces of artwork that a student should include in a portfolio.
Um, the short answer to this is depends, but I also mentioned in one of my slides the don'ts that don't over cramp your portfolio. So if you have, let me put it this way, if you have 5 excellent pieces in your portfolio that clearly indicate who you are as a creative person and where you perhaps want to go and what your personality is, that's great, but that's on the minimum scale. If it ends up to be between 8 and 12, great. If it's 15, don't do more than this. Then again, it depends if they are small pieces or if they are 5 or 8 projects that you then elaborate as well on. It depends what you got in your hands at the moment. If you have 30 or 40 pieces that you think they're all excellent, do not put them in. So between 5, but then really, really well explained and well structured and a bit elaborate on the project. 8 is great, 10 is great, 12 is great, 15 is already, yeah, I would not go over 15. There's also some information on this. If you click onto the QR codes that I had on some of my last slides, there is exact information about this as well.
Yes, so I was going to echo that as well. So we have a very detailed portfolio guideline, which our colleagues from School of Design has a quote right here: A3 portfolio of 20 to 30 pages, not exceeding 20 MB in PDF in English, that shows 5 to 10 of your best projects.
Yes.
So I think again, please refer to the guideline before you submit your portfolio, and those information will be sent to you, including this recording, by email after the session within this week. So if you have any more questions, please feel free to write back to the Global Engagement Office or to the School of Design. Again, I just want to thank so much for Professor Stefan and Joanne for your time here today, because this has been really helpful for our non-local applicants. And for our audience today, thank you for your time. There will be more webinars coming up. Prepare for your application if you're applying for next year entry. And of course, good luck to your application as well. Thank you everyone for your time again.
Thank you for listening. Hope to see you here at the School of Design soon.